We are back. Climatic Performance Method, VNL Video Newsletter. This is episode like 55 or whatever. There's been a lot of them. We're going to go over our normal structure without the Who Dat Athlete of the Week, because we really don't have one right now, because everyone's in training camp and or whatever they're doing, or they're off in college. We just kind of, this is a quiet period right now where we don't really see a lot of activity. They're all practicing and ready. However, we are going to spotlight some cool things we've been doing testing-wise, and some of the things that we're going to get into in the fall, and announcement, again, of this fall schedule. So let's get into it right after this. Okay, so most important announcement we're going to go over is just the schedule change. Again, we will go over it several times, but September 3rd, that's the day after Labor Day, we're going into our 3:45, 5, 6:15 schedule. That's Monday through Friday, and then Saturday again, 8:30 to 10. So that'll stay there, and that one's at Atlanta Christian School. Unless there's rain, we'll come over here, so we don't cancel it for any reason. But I think that's it. And summer's winding down. I'm really the weather today made me feel like it really did change over today.
Yeah, it was really fall. It was cold this morning. I was going to drive the Jeep, and I was like, ooh, no, I'll come back and get it later after we're done testing, though. But that's another announcement is we've done a number of tests throughout all of the summer. And I would say, recently we got to do Mainland and St. Augustine Prep football within the past couple months. And St. Augustine Prep Mainland, they kind of battle in here verbally. They talk, who's going to win, who's not going to win. And we got the scores to compare from an athletic.
Right here, I can post, Coach can post these up on the screen here, and we have a comparison. Now, it's what we thought it was, right? When we ahead of time, we thought the skill positions would be very equal at how fast they were, how high they could jump, how they composite score. Now, we're going to just compare composite scores next to each other of your top 5 athletes. And we thought that St. Augustine Prep would have the bigger mass-specific score because they just have bigger dudes there. That's just typically how private school to public school goes. Yeah. We were pretty much right on the money. We're not wrong very often. We're pretty much right on the money. But I'm going to look at some of these, and we'll just draw a comparison. All right. Without looking at it, of the 2 schools, who is the highest vertical leaper?
Pretty sure it was Ian Reed. Ian Reed, number 1.
Ian Reed, 2.
Yeah. Shane was probably number 2, right? MacArthur Adams, right? Shane? What did Shane hit?
Nope.
Then it had to be Ty McClear. Ty McClear was number 2. Okay.
And then third. I'm just going to see what you got.
Third's got to be Shane. No? Who was it?
Lucas DiBiaso.
Oh, what did he hit?
34.6.
Okay. What did Shane end up getting on the vertical leap?
He's not in the top. 33.3. Jaden Van Sickle was the last on the list right there. But every one of these dudes are our dudes, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. All right, so who do you think was the fastest 40-yard dash?
I know this one. Julian Onesti from St. Augustine Prep.
4.48.
Yeah, he was significantly the fastest kid we've tested on the lasers.
But then it goes over to Mainland and goes 2 4.53s and 1 4.54, and then 40-yard dash at Roman Coney went 4.54 at the Prep.
Yeah.
And Nick Costa at 4.62, whereas Mainland went 4.53, 4.53, 4.54, 4.68, 4.68. But let's look at composite scores. So let's go side by side. Mainland, Shane McCarter Adams, 7,329. Ty McClear, 7,410. And then it goes to 7,200 down to 6,400. And then over here, it goes 7,100 to 6,900 at Mainland.
Okay.
Mainland. So
Mainland on average had better athletes. Better than St. Augustine Prep's top 5 in the athletic composite score.
Yes. But the mass-specific force score, number 1.
Yeah, you just told me it's Dan DeFeo.
DeFeo.
If you watch Dan move, he's hitting hard.
Yeah, what we use for that is your weight, your mass, multiplied by your acceleration scores. In this instance, we're going to use the 10-yard dash and a vertical leap. And there's a multiplier in there that makes it so it's a 10,000 point score. Dan 7,774 points. Second, Damari Simeon 607 points. And then it goes Cam Green at 7,527, Ethan Mueller 7,028, Joey Tenaglia 69,137, Nick Costa 61,90.
Yeah. I think on this, right, Mainland, this is where St. Augustine Prep beat Mainland, is like their top 5 guys were a good amount ahead of Mainland's top 5 guys, and we knew that the public school versus private, as far as size up front.
Oh, and that's just not here. That goes.
That's everywhere. Yeah.
Prep schools have big dudes, and just how and athletic. Now, that's the battle between those two schools. Now we have another draw. A big draw is St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia. That's a big draw for us. And we have, if we were looking at their scores, it's the same exact thing. Their big guys are going to score well. Their fast guys are going to score well. But Mainland would line up with them pretty good.
Mainland skill guys athletically are, I would say, again, last year they're probably a little more athletic, I think you could argue, than this year, with Steve and Cohen being in that backfield. But right now they're sitting, as a public school, they're sitting in a great position to again tear up the state offensively. And I think he's not on the list, but just Gilman, Andrew Gilman's is already having a great first scrimmage. I heard as of today, had a couple really good catches at tight end, and he moves. So he had a high EFX score, right? He's on that list.
He did not make the top 5.
Okay,
that's for little guys. He's kind of a tweener. So he's not the big guy. He's not the little guy.
Yeah.
But Gilman had a 33.7 vertical leap, 9.4 in the broad jump, so he's number 2 in that one.
Yeah.
And as a big guy with a frame of Division I frame, where he's looking great. But between those two schools,
and Rocco didn't test for Mainland either.
Ian Reed didn't.
Ian only tested his vert, I think, right?
Julian
he didn't run.
Turney didn't test.
Oh yeah, Julian Turney didn't test for the
those
prep
are
either.
Some major contributors that we don't have on there, but you weren't there that day. It's like competing at the combine. You weren't there. Unfortunately,
whether it's visits or health or whatever, it is what it is. Yeah,
you don't show up at the combine, you don't get the score. Even though no matter how fast you are, Tyreek Hill didn't run the combine. Doesn't mean you didn't do it. It just means you weren't there that day, and we got to go apples to apples.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the best apples to apples comparison that we have. We use the Dasher system. We use the plyomat or the Just Jump.
Yeah, and this is also to the Dasher system with these scores. We factored in the same margin of error of a hand time. So this is as if these kids are running at a hand time at like Rutgers or a college football camp, and there's an average hand time number that we use for that reflects in all of our 40 times. So.
Yeah, the margin of error for a hand time, though, is up and down. There's a big swing. It could be slow. It could be fast. This one, we just add the factor in there. But it's a small percentage. But it's still, the Dasher's rough on athletes, too. It makes it because it's not a touch laser. It's a connect laser. So you don't start until that laser reconnects, and it doesn't finish until you reconnect. So honestly, to get the laser to hit your chest is a faster time than when it connects behind you. It's a small percentage, but it is a percentage that when you want hundreds of a second, you want every bit of it. It's not.
And the only consistency in timing is inconsistency. It goes everywhere you go. But
do our best.
Overall, though, I think Mainland and St. Augustine Prep is going to be a great game this year. Yeah. Like I'm glad they added them to the schedule. We have, I would say. Probably going to have 30 or 40 kids there that we probably work with or have worked with.
What I'm looking forward to is that post-game picture that we take with both sides. Because we're going to see 40 dudes that we coach all together. And no matter which way it turns out.
And a lot of these guys have trained together or worked together. So there's a big mutual respect there.
Is that Mainland or Prep? Do you know if it's? I
don't know where it's at.
We'll find out.
Mainland, it's a little closer, but I'll go to the Prep too. It's an easy drive.
It's going to be a great game. Can't wait to see all those guys. And in this facility, there's a lot of love too. They might compete really hard, but they really cheer each other on. And when one of them's going for a PR, that's the culture.
Everybody's all in. Yeah,
they're gonna freak out if you get it. We have some real fun with that. But that has been neat. We've had a lot of basketball teams that we're working on. We just got to this morning. We just did St. Augustine Prep basketball, and cool. Curtis Custis called me from Winslow because he saw our Facebook post, and he said, "Can you guys come and do a volleyball team in Winslow Township?"
Yeah, definitely.
And I said, "Heck yeah!" That's one of the coolest things because we're turning into this vertical leap machine. We've been an acceleration machine for so long, and now with the addition of all the stuff, especially bringing you along, it's really put us on the map for the vertical leap, and that's kind of what that It's really more the approach vertical leap.
Yeah.
But they're gonna, we're gonna see a lot of more volleyball players.
Yeah, and this is we've done all these tests, and this just confirms what we've been saying.
Yeah.
If you accelerate fast, you jump high. Just today, San Augustine Prep, the 2 fastest kids were the 2 highest jumpers. Go figure. You've been saying this forever.
Yeah.
We've been saying this forever. So if you guys are interested in coming in to train with us, and you're like, oh, my son or my daughter only needs to do vertical leap because they just play basketball, they just play volleyball, these things complement each other. In order to jump high, you need to be fast. You can't jump high and be slow. You can't jump high and not worry about running fast. It's impossible. You just will never have the mass specific force. You won't have the central nervous system developed to jump high. So
at least you'll accelerate really well.
Yeah.
That doesn't also mean you can be really, really good at top speed. Usually does.
Yeah.
Usually does. But all right, so we're going to go into what goes on in the 4 walls of this facility where Coach pre-wrote these workouts. So we're going to go a little bit over that right now. All right, so we got a cool, some of the stuff we've been doing with taking the hands away during acceleration and the different positions you can put it in with the hug and the overhead and behind your back. Those are things that I actually did these in college.
I remember,
without the resistance, without the timing and all that stuff. But we did do these things because it makes you accentuate other aspects of your body. Go into that a little bit on what you've
Yeah, so I think one of the hardest parts for athletes that are new to accelerating, that have the physical capabilities but they can't apply force or they can't apply it into a run, is that leaning factor and is that big push in those first couple steps, because there is a difference between game acceleration and then getting better at actually accelerating. I think that that's just something that not many people talk about. Is if you're a soccer player, your stride's going to look different than a football player. And if you're a wide receiver, your stride's going to look different than a running back. And if you're a running back, your stride's going to look different than a DB. But all of you need to get better at accelerating and learning how to use the proper mechanics in order to accelerate, get good at it, and then you go to your sport and your game speed gets faster. This is a very in-depth topic, but basically what we've been doing is putting the kids into a kneeling stance, which puts you at a disadvantage, makes you have to really push your line or push your hips away from your line, focus on the the mind-body connection into the hips to make sure you're displacing forward. Then we add the resistance cord, which is another form of stress on the body, or another form of just slowing you down, actual resistance cords. And then the hand on the head, that's the hands on the head, that's another resistance on the body. So now we're really focusing and forcing the body to displace itself forward with high knee drive, long strides, no help from the arms, while getting pulled back against the wall. The wall's pulling back with the resistance cord. So you're fighting 3 different things. Over the course of the past month, we've been working heavily on acceleration. I've actually just done days where I went off script from what we were doing in the summer and what the plan was to just stay on the field and accelerate and test for the whole hour. And the times have been dropping very often week to week. I'm more than excited. We had Mikey Baxter today, and he's an EHT baseball player who came in fast. Mikey came in fast, but he is, in the past month, has become literally number 1 in the facility. Like, he's tied CJ number 1 in the 5 and the 10 yard tests we've been using for a lot now, and these times are getting better and better. And now we're going to Naval Academy because things are starting to happen.
And CJ, just so you know, is the gold standard for acceleration.
Yeah.
So that's
CJ makes it look like when he's running. We always talk about him. I'm sure the kids watch this video. You guys always talk about CJ, but when you watch him run versus somebody else, it legitimately makes very fast people look slow. He does. And Mikey's running with him right now at a 1:16 and a 10 yard split, which Mikey's 16 or 15. So he's got
1,500 on his SATs. Too.
Yeah, extremely smart kid. So I'm really excited for him over the next 2 months.
He's gonna. If anybody's gonna push that record, it's gonna be him right now. And then CJ's gonna get really mad. And he'll push
probably
it back.
come home from Holy Cross on a weekend.
See this record start to drop a little bit more because that competitive nature of both of them.
Yeah, and I'll throw Logan in there too. Like, Logan was running 1:18s, but I bet you if Logan's in here, when CJ's in here, when Mikey's in here, all of a sudden Logan's running fast too. He was kind of running by himself in the class that he was in.
That's one more factor, and I'm just gonna. If I pat myself or you on the back at all, that's another thing that you just cannot do on your own. If you come here, you're also going to have an iron sharpens iron, competitive, freakish atmosphere where people are just getting after it, and the scores are, you can see it live in front of you, and you want that. And if you don't see that in front of you, you don't see it, you don't covet what you don't see. if you see it, you want it.
Oh, yeah.
You see it every day, and you're around that all the time. You just start iron. You can see iron sharpening iron, and everybody walks out of here. Test scores through the roof. Every one of these mainland athletes on that list was one of the kids that we coach.
Yeah, and the 10 in every test, right? In the 10, every single 40, vertical leap, broad jump, all of that, right? EFX, everything.
Yep, everybody. Yeah. Now at the prep, it's a little bit further away, but almost every kid on that list is one of ours as well.
Yeah.
Is out of now that you're talking about hundreds of kids, is that some kind of weird coincidence? These are the things that make a difference on the field too. So it's not like we're just throwing a bench press.
That's what I was going to say there. It's not like we're just training these kids to be good at our tests. These are universal tests. So of course, if you practice them and you do them right, and you come to coaches where we've been doing this for a long time, you a lot longer than me, but you improve those tests. You go to college camps and you finish in the top 3s. You finish in the top 5s, and like Ty McClure went to the Monmouth camp as a sophomore and finished, I think, 3rd overall in the vertical leap. You don't think that makes him stand out as sophomore going into his junior year? Of course it does. It's like, you can sit there and be like, well, all you guys do is practice those tests, but they're universal tests. Those are how kids get recruited. That's how you go to the NFL. You run these universal tests because if you don't think that they transfer in the game, then the NFL wouldn't use them, right? If you don't, but those, I don't know if they transfer. Of course they transfer into the game. That's why the NFL uses them. That's why the NFL doesn't do a squat test or a deadlift test or a max leg test. You know what the max test is to figure out if you can use your legs well? Your 40, your 10, your broad jump, and your vertical leap. How fast can you displace yourself? Well, if you jump high, you're fine with me. And then if you're going to fast 10, that makes sense. And then you run a fast 40, that makes sense. This guy can use his legs just fine for the NFL.
You guys have seen Devontae Smith. I'm pretty sure he's not a big squatter. He looks like a basketball player.
Yeah.
That is just Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
He can play football a little bit.
Yeah.
So some guys have to have some big mass and stuff like that. Great. It seems like the scouts don't really care though.
Football's a competition of movement. Every sport's a competition of movement. So
and I went to the NFL Combine.
Yeah.
I was prepared to bench press. They didn't even test us.
Yeah.
They didn't even test. I was like, oh, wow, why the heck did I even do that? Didn't care. Made no difference.
No difference at all.
So we are very careful what we pick and choose to do and how we pick and choose exercises to increase those test scores because they really do. Matter of fact, our guys, does that matter when you're up on that record board? I think all of our guys go off to school and their name is shot up to the top of the record board and their vertical leap, their 10, and their 40-yard dash. It's what we do.
Like this is, talk about these other schools, but Mainland and St. Augustine Prep, we've trained many of their kids for the past 3 or so years. We've been really getting a good amount of kids from those schools, and those tests, like to test the team and to have the numbers that both of them put up, and there's a couple kids in that we haven't worked with, which is, shout out to them and what they're doing, but both of these schools have elite numbers. Like we tested, a bunch of different other schools. We tested a bunch of different other teams, and it's like for them to just have a couple like guys sitting at mid to high 30s during camp, because we're testing during camp. We're testing when legs are fatigued, after workouts, after training, early in the morning, not ideal conditions. For them to just have guys sitting at those numbers, sitting at those 4.4, 4.5, 4.6s, like that speaks to their program and their, them wanting to get better, them pushing themselves, them training hard, because those are not common scores, especially for 4, 5, 6 guys on your team to have scores like that. That's
and if I had to pick, if there was an athlete of the week, I would do it again, and I'm giving it to Matt Bonchek. Okay. Because if you look at these scores, vertical leap 33.6, broad jump 9.1, 10-yard dash 1.71, his 40-yard dash 4.72, his EFX score, his athletic composite 7,074 points.
And he is a
linebacker,
215, and he was just named preseason
first team All State.
Yeah, and then Jambuzzi was what?
Second team.
Yeah, Jambuzzi.
Or second team, both all South Jersey.
All South Jersey, yeah.
But Matt's preseason first team All State.
Yeah.
Now Matt is just. I mean, if you saw the transformation he made, a commitment he made to those numbers,
and he trusted us. Yeah,
he did. He lost. Probably 10, 15 pounds.
Yeah.
Put it back on the right way.
Yeah.
Put it back on the opposite of what he was doing. Pounding the weights and getting huge, and it was running with a complete stiffness. To being where he's at right now and those numbers, those are 7,000 point we think is that cutoff for Division I athletes,
Yep.
and he's in it. Dan Francis is just a sliver under it.
Yep.
Just right there. 4.71 in his 40. Dan Francis was also on the list, I think, for his 10. No, he wasn't. But and we got Ty McClear hitting the highest of all composite scores. We knew that. And that's kind of sneaky because if you see him, you wouldn't he wasn't the top in any category besides the vertical leap, but he snuck in there because he's the best at everything.
He's good at everything. Yeah, he's good at everything else,
and he's good on the field like that too.
And that's why he's a really good DB because he can displace himself, he can move, he can accelerate, he's fast. He's been working for a while. He's been working for a really long time. So that just goes to show where he's at.
Yeah, Roman Coney on there was one of the slower 10s that he's run, but then he came back at a 4.54. So he, with a bad start, I think some of these guys lifted before they
did. Yeah, they squatted.
And so a lot of their scores were a little bit dead legs. I know, Ty was saying his legs were completely dead when he ran. Even Matt was upset, but he ran well anyway. But anyway, yeah. So these are neat. Comparing these scores. Look on our Facebook, our Instagram, whatever. You'll be able to see them. Have some fun with that. We have a raw list of everybody's stuff in there. If anybody's interested, we'll show you. But typically, we're just showing the top 5.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of fun. Josh did a great job preparing those for us, and it takes us hours to do those. So, with a couple spelling errors here and there,
a couple mistakes,
but things happen when your mind's going crazy. But besides that, we had a great week coming up. Well, last week of the summer, really, and then we get into Labor Day. We'll be off Labor Day.
Yeah,
there you go.
Monday, Labor Day.
You're welcome.
You know how excited
you can have that day off. Labor
Sunday
Day.
fun day.
I think you asked me for that anyway.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I knew we had off.
It's a Monday. It's always a Monday, right?
Yeah.
But so we'll be out to test. We'll be testing now. I want to get Winslow in. We got Atlanta Christian boys and girls soccer tomorrow. We have Linwood Panthers on Thursday night at 6. We have Northfield Cardinals Friday night at 7. It's going to be a lot because there's a lot of kids to get in for an hour. We're going to lose a lot of daylight. They have lights though on the field. Okay. So we are excited for some football, excited for the locker room, the radio show where we're back in action, and we brought on the Negadelphian. We had unbelievable reviews for him. Normally we get 20, 30 texts in during a segment. We were up in almost 200 texts during that segment. It was so funny, and it is a guy that's just doing his thing. That's very funny, but very Philadelphia negative. It was great. So anyway, I think we'll wrap it up right there, and we'll see you next time from KPM.